Hello, this is Crystal Sanich, and thank you for joining me for this week's First Chapter Friday. Today I will be reading from the first chapter of Joanne Fluke's Christmas Cupcake Murder. This is one of the Hannah Swenson mystery books, so I hope you enjoy. Chapter 1. Hannah Swenson was just taking a pan of German chocolate cupcakes out of her industrial oven at the cookie jar when there was a knock on the back kitchen door. Hannah quickly slid the pan of cupcakes on a shelf in the baker's rack and hurried to answer the door. A man was standing there, and he stepped back a few feet from the door, a man Hannah had never seen before. "I'm sorry, but we're not open yet," she said. "I know that, ma'am, and thank you for answering the door. I saw the close sign, but I was hoping that someone was here early and they might have some work for me to do. I don't need money, that's not it, but I'd be grateful for a couple of cookies to eat for breakfast." As the man spoke, Hannah noticed that he was shivering. His coat didn't look very warm, and it was cold this early in the morning. She felt a rush of compassion for his situation, and she opened the door wider and motioned him closer. "Come in and we'll talk about the work. I'm ready to take a coffee break right now. Would you like to have a cup of coffee with me?" "Yes, I certainly would, ma'am," he said immediately, a smile breaking out on his face. "A cup of coffee would be really good." "Just hang your coat on one of those hooks by the door," she said, walking quickly to the kitchen coffee pot. She finished a cup of coffee only minutes before, but it was obvious that the man needed to come in out of the cold and drink something warm. She was about to offer him cream and sugar, but one glance at his emaciated form when he hung up his coat prompted her to add 2 more packets of sugar and a generous amount of cream to his coffee. Hannah carried his coffee to one of the stools by the stainless steel workstation and pulled out a stool for him. "Would you like one of the cupcakes I just baked?" she asked. "It's not frosted yet, but it should still be good without frosting." "Yes, thank you, ma'am," the man said, giving her a grateful smile. And then he smiled even wider as she delivered the cupcake, and he saw that it was chocolate. "I love chocolate. My mother used to say that it was God's gift to mankind." "Your mother was a wise woman," Hannah said with a smile. "These cupcakes are going to be German chocolate when they're frosted." "I love German chocolate cake. My mother used to make a German chocolate cake every year for my birthday. It was our family's official birthday cake, and my mother was famous for her cake. She copied the recipe on a card and gave it away every time she baked a birthday cake for someone." Hannah could see that his eyes were wet with unshed tears at the memory. "You'll have to come back here in an hour or so, and I'll give you a cupcake that's frosted." "I'll be back." "Thank you, ma'am." He took a bite of his cupcake and swallowed with obvious relish. "These are really good." "Thank you. Would you like another?" "Oh, yes. Yes, I would, and thank you, ma'am." Hannah went back to the baker's rack and picked up another cupcake. The man was polite and completely non-threatening. Mike Kingston, the chief detective at the Winnetka County Sheriff's Department, would chastise her for opening the door to a stranger. But if he were here and actually met her early morning visitor, Hannah was sure he would agree with her assessment of the man's character. "Tell me more about your mother's German chocolate cake," she said, sitting down on a stool directly across from his. "Did you ever watch her make it?" "Yes, ma'am, I surely did. And when I got old enough, I rode to the store with her to get all the things she needed to bake it." "Do you remember what they were?" "I do. She bought German chocolate. She never kept it in the pantry because she said it might get old between birthdays, and she wanted it fresh. And she bought coconut, pecans, and cake flour. She wanted those fresh too. And then we went to the fruit section, and she bought 1 orange." "An orange?" Hannah asked curiously. An orange wasn't called for in any German chocolate cake recipe that she'd ever seen. The orange was for me. After she took off the peel, she cut it into little wheels on a plate. Then she picked out the seeds and gave it to me to eat. She told me that oranges were expensive, and orange wheels were part of my birthday present. Your birthday was in the winter? Hannah gave an educated guess, since the man was well over 20 years old. And fresh produce, especially fruit that had to be trucked in from warmer climates, was expensive in the winter. I don't... Yes! My birthday is in the winter. I can remember that Dad had to drive us to town through the snow to buy what she needed for my birthday cake. The man looked sad again, and Hannah was almost sorry she'd asked for more information about his birthday. But after a moment, he began to smile again. I know what I can do for you, ma'am. I can brush the snow off your car and scrape the ice from your windshield. That would be wonderful, Hannah agreed quickly. It was obvious to her that the man wanted to repay her in some way for giving him coffee and the cupcakes. And while you're out there, you can unwind the cord from my front bumper and plug in my car. There's a strip of outlets on the side of the building, and I forgot to do it when I came to work this morning. I'll go do that right now, the man said, standing up quickly. It's cold out there this morning. No, don't go yet, Hannah told him quickly, motioning him back down to his stool. Stay here and drink some more of your coffee so you'll warm up first. Finish your coffee with your second cupcake, and then I'll show you which car is mine. The man laughed. It was a nice laugh, and Hannah was glad to hear it. From his appearance, she suspected that he hadn't much to laugh about in recent weeks. You don't have to tell me which one is yours, ma'am. There's only one vehicle in the parking lot, and I figured that red Chevy Suburban must be yours. You figured right, Hannah told him. While you're outside, I'm going to frost those cupcakes. Then you can have a couple of them when you're done. After the man finished his coffee and cupcake, he went back outside, and Hannah not only frosted the cupcakes, she also looked through her lost and found box. She'd been open for 2 years now, and she'd been planning to take the contents of last year's box to Helping Hands, the thrift store across the alley. If there was anything in the lost and found box that would fit, she'd take it out and give it to him. She also decided to pay him $5. It wasn't much, but she wanted to give him something so he could buy a meal later in the day. 20 minutes later, dressed in the warm sweater and scarf she'd found, the man left, clutching the bag of frosted German chocolate cupcakes that she'd given him, along with a promise that he'd stop by the following morning to see if she had any additional work for him. After he had gone, Hannah began baking again. She felt good as she mixed up the cupcake batter, put it in the cups, and waited for it to bake. She'd helped someone who truly needed help, and since her instincts had been correct, and the man had been polite and grateful for her help, it had been the right thing for her to do. There was another knock at the door, the moment after Hannah had slipped a pan of cupcakes on the revolving racks in her industrial oven. This time, it was a knock she recognized, and she hurried to the door. Hello, Mother, she called out before she even opened the door. There was only one person in town who knocked 3 times in quick succession, paused for several seconds, and then repeated the pattern. Good morning, dear, Dolores greeted her. Do you have time for a quick cup of coffee with me? I'd really need to discuss something important with you. Hannah's instincts went on red alert. Her mother usually simply walked in and took a seat on a stool at Hannah's workstation without asking. Whatever Dolores had to discuss with her must involve some kind of last-minute favor that would mean extra work for Hannah. Of course, if you're terribly busy, I can always come back a bit later, Dolores offered, obviously noticing her eldest daughter's hesitation. No, it's fine, Mother. Just hang up your coat and take a seat. I'll get your coffee, put the rest of my cupcakes in the oven, and be right with you. Thank you, dear. Dolores took off her coat, hung it on one of the hooks near the back door, and headed for a stool at the stainless steel workstation. Do I smell chocolate? You do. Hannah delivered her mother's coffee and hurried back to her industrial oven to set the timer. I'm trying out a recipe for German chocolate cupcakes that Lisa found in her mother's recipe box. They smell divine, dear. I don't suppose any of them are cool enough to... They are, Hannah said, anticipating the rest of her mother's question. I'll bring you one just as soon as I'm through here. Oh, good. Thank you, dear. That would be lovely. I was running late this morning, and I simply didn't have time for my yogurt and wheat toast. As she glanced over at her mother, a puzzled expression crossed Hannah's face. And that is the beginning of Chapter 1 of Joanne Fluke's Christmas Cupcake Murder. If you would like to know what happens next and why Hannah Swenson had a puzzled look on her face, check out this book on the Hoopla app. Thank you. Have a great day.